Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. All right, so if this is your first time coming across my video, you're highly welcome. My name is Stella. Okay, so in my previous video, I showed us how to draft this beautiful dress. Okay, so we started off by drafting a full scale block which we altered to a Queen Anne neckline. Okay, and we also drafted a basic skirt block. Okay, and I showed us how to slash. All right, so this video basically is us transferring all our patterns to fabric. Okay, and we will be sewing them. So let's jump right into it. Now we're going to start by getting the front skirt pattern. Okay, so it's advisable you start with lining so that you can have opportunity to make all your corrections. Now, so I have my skirt block, that's the front skirt block. So so I have it now on the lining. Now, first thing to do is to go ahead and pin it down. Okay, remember the lining is on fold. All right. Now, to know the extent of your spread, from the knee line, you come down by 1.5 inches. Okay. So that's where I want my spread to start from. Now, the extent of the wideness, okay, or the fullness that I want is 10 inches. Now, 10 inches is just basic. Anything above 10 inches, it means you want it very full. And that's not what my client wants. So I went ahead to mark my 10 inches there. And I brought the second leg of the pattern just to rest on that 10 inches mark. Now I'll go ahead and pin that down. Okay. Um, so I'm done pinning. Okay. Remember I told us that the extent of my spread is 10 inches. Okay. And remember that this our pattern has all our allowances included. So I needed to remind us that. Now we've measured our 10 inches. Okay. And now if you connect from the midpoint to the other to the side front, it will look very funny. So it's always best you come down from the center front by half inch. Okay, just like I've done, and then you connect it to the side front like so. Now when you cut this, it's going to look perfect. Okay, so this is what I always do when I'm doing slash and spread. All right, now we'll go ahead to add our side seam allowances. Remember that our skirt block already has our join allowance of 0.5 on the waist. Okay, so I'll go ahead and add my allowances. Now from the waist to the knee line, I'll add 2 inches allowance. Now from the knee to the full length, I'll add 1 inch allowance. Okay, now I went ahead to mark that out. Okay, now um for for clarity's sake, I like to use my curve, okay, to shapen, so that when it's time for us to do the final shaping, I'll simply come in with this same curve and I will repeat the same shape. Okay, so it takes away that stress of that bulge that usually appears by your skirt, okay, around the hip. With your curve, it eliminates that automatic. Okay, so that's it. I've marked all my allowances. Remember I told us from the waist to the hip is 1 inch, is 2 inches, sorry, and from the hip remember I told us that from the waist to the knee is 2 inches, and from the knee to the full length is 1 inch allowance. So I've connected that. Now I'll go ahead and cut out the front skirt. Okay, now remember that we don't have any sharp points in our body, so you remember to blend every point. Okay, and that's it. So the front skirt pattern is ready. Okay, now another secret is to notch every point. Now the first place I'm notching is the knee point, the knee line, and I'll also notch the hip line. Okay, this is very important, especially when it's time for you to do the final shaping. You don't start guessing where is the hip line and where is the knee line. Okay, so you guys know that by now I like to be very precise. I don't like guessing. Okay, so and that's it. Now we'll keep this and we will bring the back skirt pattern. Okay, so this is our back skirt pattern. Okay, now just like we did in the front, on the knee line we're going to take the measurement and you divide it into two. Okay, and you make a mark there. You repeat the same thing on your full length, measure exactly what you have, and then divide that into two and make a mark. Now we're going to connect using a straight line. Okay, so we're connecting from the knee to the full length. Okay, now we'll go ahead and we'll cut this. Now we'll cut it and stop exactly by that knee line. Okay, now we need to also go ahead and cut um towards the side front and the center front. Now you cut, but you're not cutting through. Okay, then you go ahead and spread like I just did. Okay, now from the knee to downwards, you need to measure 1 inch. Okay, so this is a guide on how you're going to spread. Okay, remember that in the front we came down by 1.5 inches from the knee line, but for the back, if you want it minimal, from your knee you need to come down by 1 inch. Okay, so I have my pattern now on the lining, but I want the extent of the spread for the back to be 14.5 inches or 14. And if you fold your lining into two, it won't give you that. So I went ahead to cut to just open up my lining, so that we're going to cut our patterns, our fabric in singles. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense. All right, so I have my pattern pinned down on the lining, and um, um we need to add a little train. Okay, so I need to have just a little train at the center back. All right, so this is the center back line. Now with my ruler I need to extend the line a bit. Okay, so I'll extend the line a bit just so that I can mark my train. Okay, so I have extended the center back line. Okay, now the extent of the train I want is just 3.5 inches. Okay, I don't want the train to be everywhere. Okay, so it's just 3.5 inches. You can extend yours as long as you want. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead and connect from the side, back, okay, to my 3.5 inches train. Okay, and that's it. Now um remember that I'm going to stitch down my dart. Okay, so I'm just simply extending my lines. That's my knee line and then my hip line as well. Now I need to add my allowances. Okay, so for the center back, I'll go ahead and add my 1 inch zip allowance, and from the knee of the center back I'll just reduce it to 0.5. Okay, and my side back as well is 2 inches from the waist to the knee, and from the knee is 1 inch down to the full length. Okay, so I've marked all my allowances. Now I went ahead to cut as well. All right, okay, so moving on to the blouse. Now this is the side front. Okay, so I went ahead to add my 0.5 joining allowance, and then the side seam allowance is 2.5 inches. I just decided to be very generous with my allowance this time. All right, so and this is the center back. Okay, so you remember our patterns. Okay, so the arrows were very helpful. All right, so um I've cut out both on the lace. I also cut out my interline and my lining. Now this is the yoke for the back. Okay, so I'm going to be using these two nets to turn the back yoke. Okay, and I just decided to show us how I attached my lace to the interlining. All right, so this is the center front. So I'm using the raw silk as both the interlining and the lining. All right, so I simply placed my lace on the raw silk, and then I came in with this fabric glue. Okay, and just glued it light on the edges. Okay, and that's it. So I will go ahead now and join all these pieces using my 0.5. Okay, okay, so I went ahead to join my skirt. All right, so in my channel I have a detailed video on how to join a skirt. Okay, I'll leave the link in the description box. So I went ahead to join the skirt, and I also fixed the zip. Okay, then I went ahead to join the lining as well. Now we need to wear the lining into the main skirt. Okay, and I went ahead also to open up the center back of the lining. Okay, now the first thing to do is to hold the lining, okay, and the main skirt. Ensure that they both meet on the waist. Okay, now we need to turn the main skirt, the main fabric with the lining. Okay, now from the zip I'll come in by 1.25. Okay, I don't want it too much inside, so I'll go ahead and mark my 1.25 inches. Okay, there I will repeat the same on the other side as well. Now I will use the lining to turn the skirt, just, and I'll stop exactly at that point that I just marked. Okay, now back to the blouse. And so this is the blouse. I'm done joining. Now the major secret to your blouse laying flat is to iron. Now I went ahead to iron down all my joinings. Okay, this is the back piece as well. I ironed it flat, as you can see. Okay, and this is the lining. I did my ironing. Now this is my yoke. I've turned it with the tool net. Okay, I also went ahead to fix my buttonhole. Okay, because I'll be fixing my buttons much later. Okay, now if you take a look at this, the only area that I stitched is just the neckline and the curved area. Okay, so the armhole and the shoulder is still open. I didn't close that. Okay, now we'll proceed with our joining. So I'll go ahead and align my yoke. Okay, like so. Then I'll need to pin that on the back. Okay, then I'll use the lining to turn it, but that will be much later. Now if you notice I didn't pad the front, that's because I will be tacking my bra cups. Okay, so I'll be tacking bra cups to the front. Okay, so that's why I didn't pad that. But to fixing your bra cup, just ensure that is that is laying on the underbust line. So that's the major factor that you need to take note of when tacking your bra cup to your fabric. Now I would like to bone the lining alone. Okay, just to give it more structure. Now um off camera I prefer to iron the regilin bone. Okay, just so that it will be straight, but you can fix it this way and still iron it much later, but I prefer to iron that first. Now let's move on. So to fix that, from the neckline I came down by 1 inch. Okay, so, and then at the full length of the blouse as well, I went up by ½ inch. Now the extent of this is to ensure that it doesn't enter your seam lines. Okay, just so that you still end up with a perfect fit. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that on my dart lines. I don't want too much bone on the dress. Okay, I'll repeat the same on the back as well. I'll stitch the regilin bone on my dart lines. Okay, but you can draw more bone channels just according to your preference. Okay, but I'm going to be stitching mine. Remember I said I'll be stitching on the lining, and I'll be stitching the bone lines, just I'll be stitching the bones on the dart lines. Okay, and this is it. So I went ahead to join. I've also tacked my bra cups. Okay, as you can see, is laying on the underbust line. Okay, now I ironed my side seams. Okay, so you can see how flat is laying. The major secret is the ironing. Now I also went ahead to fix my zip. Okay, and my yoke, and we are almost done, almost, but not yet done. So I have stitched down my bone lines. Okay, so I've stitched the bones, and I joined the sides pieces as well. Now if you take note, you notice the way I folded the side seam allowance with my lining. Okay, with my pressing iron. Now the essence of this is to ensure that it doesn't bulge when your client or you wear the dress. Okay, so I went ahead to stitch down my bones, okay, on my dart lines, and I also pressed it like I told us earlier. Now we'll go ahead to turn the main fabric with the lining. Okay, so the first thing to do is to come in with the lining. Okay, right sides facing each other like so, and then with the lining on top, or whichever will be easier for you. Then we will need to stitch. Okay, so we'll start with the lower part. Remember our allowance of 0.5 when we are cutting. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'll stitch it down. I'll turn the lower part using 0.5. Okay, I'll also turn the zip area. I'll use the lining to turn the zip. Then I'll flip in the yoke. Okay, it's advisable you pin that down so that it doesn't get in the way when you are stitching. Okay, so I'll also stitch that down, but towards um the the side, I will stop 1 inch before that side seam allowance. Okay, remember that we're going to be fixing a sleeve today, so and you don't want to close that up completely. So I'll repeat the same on the other side as well. Okay, so like I said earlier, it's advisable you pin down your yoke to your back piece. Okay, just so that you don't mistakenly stitch that when you're joining. Okay, so I'll repeat the same thing. I will stitch using 0.5 allowance. Then when I'm getting to the side seam, I will stop 1 inch before that joining part. Okay, and I'll also go ahead and join the necklines. Okay, so I'll turn the neckline using 0.5, but when doing this, I will attach a hemming gum just so that the neckline can lay very flat at the end of the sewing. All right, so I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'll stitch. I'll come back and show us. All right, and here we have it. So um I've done all my stitchings. Okay, now for the neckline, when I finished, I went ahead to trim that down to 0.25, but you can notch, but I just prefer to trim it down to 0.25. And remember I told us that I was going to use hemming gum to stitch that part, which I did. Now it's time for us to turn. Okay, so I've turned it. You can see how flat it's laying. Okay, I also went ahead to press it. Now this is the inside of the dress. Okay, you can see how clean is laying. The major secret is ironing every step of the way. All right, so now the next thing to do is to join the shoulder. Okay, so I'll go ahead and join my shoulder using 0.5 inch allowance that we added when we were cutting. All right, so I'll join the shoulder, I'll press, and I'll also attach my sleeve. Okay, it's just a basic sleeve, nothing extra. It's extra though, but it's just a basic sleeve so that we the video can be short. All right, so I'll do that, and I'll come back and show us. All right, so back to the skirt. So I've turned the zip area. Remember the area I explained for us. So I went in by my 1.25 inches, and I've turned that part, and then I top stitched the rest of the skirt. Okay, so this is the wrong side. This is the inside of the skirt. Okay, so every other area is top stitched. Okay, so this is my lining. You can see that all my stitches are all concealed with the lining. Okay, so let me turn it to the right side, and here we have it. So is I simply top stitched. The only area I turned is from the zip. We went in by 1.25 inches. All right, so let's come in with the blouse so that we can do our final shaping. Yes, now I fixed my sleeve. Okay, beautiful sleeve, by the way. So I just love this blouse. It looks very um classy and neat. I think those are the two words for me. All right, so later on I'll fix my buttons there. Okay, now I also went ahead to fix my zip. Okay, so let's proceed. Now remember that from her shoulder to her underbust length is 15.5 inches. Now you need to place your tape on that underbust mark. Okay, and from her shoulder to her waist for the front is also 18 inches, so you need to mark that. I'll repeat the same on the other side as well. rest your tape on the underbust mark of 15.5 and then mark your half length of 18. Now I'll need to extend these marks to the back. Okay, so simply extend whatever the front half length is, extend it to the back, okay, like I'm doing. Now I would also like to have a little bit of basque on this dress, okay. So, and I'll come down by 2 inches. That's how much I want my basque. Okay, so I don't want it too deep. So again, the extent of my basque is 2 inches. So I came down by 2 inches and I just made a mark there. Now I'm going to go in with my chalk and I'll just connect from the side back, okay, to that 2 inches, and I'll repeat the same on the other side as well. All right, and here we have it. So is that simple. Whatever you want, however you want your basque to be, however deep you want it to be, just connect it to your side back, okay, on the both sides. Now I'll come in with my skirt and we'll continue with our shaping. All right, so here is my skirt. Now the first thing you need to do is to mark the center part, okay, so that's the center point of the skirt, but you need to first pin down the skirt, okay. So I'm done pinning the skirt now. So I'll come in with my scissors and I'll need to indicate the center front of the skirt, okay. That's very important. But remember that on the blouse we came down by 2 inches, okay. So on the skirt now we'll come down by 1.5 inches. So the remaining half inch is for the joining, okay. So I'll need to connect that to the side, okay. So um you do that with a slight curve. Now I'll come in with my scissors and I'll cut that out, okay.
Kindly subscribe to my channel if you have not. Thank you.
All right, so I've cut off the 1.5 inches, okay, from the skirt, and I went ahead to stop stitch that as well, okay. So you need to do that. Now at this point you need to overlock, but I don't have overlocking machine, so I'll do that later, okay. Now you need to unzip the skirt, okay, and it's time for us to indicate the center front of the skirt. That's the midpoint of the skirt. All right. So you indicate the mid point of the skirt and then you unzip. Now we're going to place the skirt like so. Kindly pay attention to the way I'm placing the skirt on the blouse. Okay. Now you also need to indicate the center point of the blouse. Okay. So what I did is simply to align my darts. Okay. And I just marked the midpoint. This is very important as well because you need the midpoint of the skirt to align with the midpoint of the blouse. Okay, now you come in with your skirt and you align those 2 points. Okay, then you go ahead and pin that down. It's that simple. All right, so let's proceed. So after you pin that down, it's time for you to place the skirt, okay, following that marked line. Remember our marked line earlier. So you place your skirt on those lines and you pin. You repeat the same on the other side as well. Okay, so I'm simply placing the skirt on the marked lines, okay, and I'll go ahead and pin that down as well. Okay, now I'll repeat the same on the other side as well, but you have to ensure that that you follow the curve. Okay, remember our 2 inches basque, so you need to ensure that you follow that exact curve, and I'll repeat the same on the other side as well. Then when you're done, you just flip the skirt backwards like so, and here we have it, where the skirt is ready. So I just love how neat the stitches are. Okay, that's the highlight for me. All right, so i'm done I'm done fixing it, and this dress is just lovely. It's just a beautiful dress. Okay, all right, so you can see the inside. You can see the structure of the dress. Now, why I love this style is it's just like a two-in-one dress. I mean, it's a dress, but it has an inbuilt corset. In as much as my bones are a bit light, but it still gives you that same effect. For some people, when you put a lot of bones, it makes them a bit uncomfortable, and that's not what I want to achieve at the end of the day. So this is it. Lovely. I would like you guys to try this out. Okay. So I'll go ahead and place it on the mannequin for us to see. Okay. All right. And here we have it. The fittings are just it. You can see the waistline, see that curve there. Okay. And I love the effect of bra cup actually. I don't know. Padding is great, but no, the bra cup just gives you that ready to wear feel. All right, guys. So we've come to the end of the video. Kindly subscribe to my channel, like, drop your comments or your remarks. Okay, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye.